And did you know that throughout history, humans have intentionally deformed their bodies for various cultural, social, and aesthetic reasons? In the unfolding chapters of human history, the canvas of our bodies has been a site for intricate expressions of identity and status, encompassing a broad spectrum of practices that we now categorize as body deformities. From the ancient tribes of Africa to the lofty courts of imperial China, and even in the modern era, our bodies have been transformed, reshaped, and altered in a myriad of ways. These alterations range from the subtle to the severe, from the ephemeral to the permanent. We've seen practices like foot binding in China, where young girls' feet were tightly wrapped to alter their shape and size, a sign of beauty and status. In Mayan culture, infants' heads were often molded into elongated shapes, believed to denote nobility and connection with the spiritual world. In Africa, lip plates and earlobe stretching were prevalent, symbolizing maturity and social standing. And let's not forget the intricate web of tattoos and piercings that have adorned bodies across cultures and continents, each with its own unique symbolism and significance. Each of these practices, while vastly different, shares a common thread. They reflect the complex interplay between cultural norms, societal pressures, personal aesthetics, and the human desire to stand out or fit in. They tell a story of our collective past, a testament to our enduring quest for identity and belonging. But as we journey through this intriguing history, it's essential to remember that these deformities were not without their consequences. The human body, after all, is a delicate balance of form and function. When we alter its structure, we inevitably impact its capabilities and limitations. So, as we delve deeper into history, let's uncover the fascinating world of body deformities. Let's unravel the unseen stories of our ancestors, stories that have shaped our perceptions of beauty, identity, and worth. And in doing so, let's gain a deeper understanding of our shared human experience in all its diverse and intricate forms. In the next part of our exploration, we'll dive into the specific practices across time and cultures, so stay tuned. From foot binding in China to head shaping in Mayan civilization, humans have displayed a fascinating array of body deformation practices. These practices, though unique, have a common thread. They were all considered integral expressions of beauty, status, or identity within their respective societies. In ancient China, for instance, foot binding was a beauty standard for women. Girls as young as 5 had their feet bound to achieve the coveted lotus feet. This practice was not only a sign of beauty but also of social status. Similarly, the Mayans believed that a long, sloping forehead, achieved through infant head shaping, was a mark of nobility. In Africa, we see practices such as neck elongation among the Padaung tribe of Myanmar, lip plates among the Mercy tribe of Ethiopia, and scarification in several West African cultures. These deformations are not just aesthetic choices, but also markers of maturity, bravery, and attractiveness. In the Pacific Islands, tattooing is a form of body modification with deep cultural significance. From the intricate full-body tattoos of the Maori people of New Zealand to the facial tattoos of the Polynesians, these practices serve as rites of passage, symbols of status and power, and expressions of personal identity. The indigenous tribes of North America practiced skull elongation, which they believed connected them to the spiritual world. In the Amazon, the Kayapo tribe pierced their lower lips and inserted large discs, representing their ability to endure pain and their readiness for adult responsibilities. Body deformation practices have also been observed in Europe. The ancient Celts, for instance, tattooed their bodies with woad, a blue dye, for both aesthetic and ritualistic purposes. In Victorian England, women wore corsets to achieve an hourglass figure, a fashion trend that often led to health problems. These practices, though often painful, were deeply rooted in the societies of the time. They were seen as gateways to acceptance, respect, and prestige within their communities. In the next scene, we delve into the reasons behind these rituals, offering a deeper understanding of why these practices were so prevalent across cultures. But what drove individuals to undergo these drastic transformations? Let's delve into that. From the dawn of civilization, the human body has been seen as a canvas, a medium to express societal norms, cultural beliefs, and aesthetic ideals. Body deformities, as drastic as they may appear to us now, were often deeply rooted in these aspects. Let's take a journey back to ancient Egypt. The elongated cone-shaped heads of the aristocracy weren't a product of natural evolution, but a deliberate act of cranial deformation. This was done to distinguish the elite from the common folk, a clear social marker etched into the very bones of those who ruled. Similarly, in China, the tradition of foot binding was not merely a fashion statement, it was a symbol of status and refinement. Smaller feet were considered more desirable, and thus, young girls were subjected to this painful practice, all in the pursuit of a societal ideal of beauty. In Africa, among the Mercy and Surma tribes, lip plates were worn by women as a sign of maturity and eligibility for marriage. The larger the plate, the higher the bride price, making this a cultural and economic practice. In the Pacific Islands, tattooing was not just about body art. It was a rite of passage, a display of bravery, and a mark of social status. The pain endured during the process was seen as a test of strength and endurance. The Mayans, the Maoris, the Victorians, each had their unique practices, all aimed at altering the human form. But these weren't mindless acts of self-mutilation, they were conscious choices, deeply entwined with their cultural fabric, their social hierarchy, and their perception of beauty. In essence, these body deformations were a form of communication, a physical manifestation of the societal norms, cultural values, and aesthetic ideals of the time, a way to belong, to be seen, to be recognized. What these practices shared was a deep-seated desire to adhere to societal norms and standards of beauty. The human body, in all its malleability, has always been a reflection of the times it exists within. While these deformities were often seen as symbols of beauty or status, they came with their own set of risks. Let's dive into the impact of body deformities on health. Throughout history, body modifications, though often revered, were not without significant health implications. Consider foot binding, a practice in ancient China where young girls' feet were tightly wrapped to prevent growth. This painful process often led to infections, lifelong disabilities, and even death. Similarly, skull elongation, a tradition among certain tribes in Africa and South America, could result in brain damage due to the constant pressure applied to the skull during the elongation process. Moving on to piercings and body modifications, these practices weren't just for aesthetic appeal. In some cultures, they denoted social status or were seen as rites of passage. However, they also exposed the body to infections and diseases. Improper piercing techniques could lead to severe bacterial infections, while extensive body modifications could lead to nerve damage and other complications. Corsetry, popular in the Victorian era, is another example. The tight lacing of corsets often resulted in difficulty breathing, digestive issues, and even organ damage. The long-term use of corsets could lead to permanent changes in the body structure, causing a slew of health issues. Now let's look at scarification, a practice common in some African and Aboriginal cultures where the skin is deliberately cut, etched, burned, or branded to create a permanent body modification. This intense procedure not only poses immediate risks of infection and bloodborne diseases, but can also lead to long-term skin complications. These historical body deformities, while culturally significant, often carried severe health consequences. They serve as a stark reminder that our pursuit of beauty and status has often come at the expense of our health and well-being. The price for beauty, it seems, often came at a high cost. Fast forward to the 21st century, our perception of body deformation has drastically changed. Our society, once rigid in its beauty standards, has started to embrace a more diverse and inclusive definition of beauty. This shift is largely due to the influence of media, fashion, and the rise of individualism. In the past, body deformities were often seen as undesirable or even frightening, largely due to a lack of understanding. However, as we've grown more informed, we have also grown more accepting. Today, we understand that these so-called deformities are often natural variations in the human form or chosen modifications that hold unique cultural or personal significance. Media and fashion have played a significant role in this shift. With the rise of social media, we've seen an explosion of diverse body images. No longer are we limited to the narrow beauty standards presented in traditional media. Today, anyone can share their image with the world, redefining beauty on their own terms. The fashion industry, too, has begun to embrace this diversity. We've seen an increased representation of models of all shapes, sizes, and appearances on the runway and in advertisements. This shift has not only broadened our perception of beauty, but has also started important conversations about body positivity and self-acceptance. Moreover, the rise of individualism has led many to seek out body modifications as a means of self-expression. Tattoos, piercings, and even more extreme forms of body modification have become increasingly mainstream. These practices, once seen as taboo, are now widely accepted as a form of personal expression and identity. However, it's important to note that while our attitudes have evolved, societal pressure and the desire for aesthetic perfection still persist. We must continue to challenge these pressures and encourage acceptance of all bodies, in all their diverse forms. Today, the definition of beauty is more diverse and inclusive than ever before. We've come a long way from a time when body deformities were stigmatized and feared, and yet there is still much work to be done. As we continue to evolve and grow, let's strive towards a society where every body is celebrated and accepted just as it is. Despite the shift in attitudes, body deformation practices have not disappeared. They've simply evolved. In the modern era, body modification remains a widespread phenomenon, though the methods and motivations have drastically changed. Today's practices are less about societal norms and more about individual expression, personal aesthetics, and often medical needs. One of the most common forms of body modification today is tattooing. From intricate designs to simple symbols, tattoos have become a popular way for individuals to express their identity, commemorate significant life events, or simply appreciate the art of ink on skin. Piercings, too, have evolved beyond traditional earlobe piercings. Today, piercings can be seen on various parts of the body, from the eyebrow to the navel, and even more intimate areas. They can symbolize rebellion, personal style, or cultural heritage. And then there's the world of plastic surgery, a field that has seen explosive growth over the past few decades. From nose jobs to breast augmentations, liposuction to facelifts, the possibilities are virtually endless. People opt for plastic surgery for a myriad of reasons. Some aim to enhance their physical appearance, others to correct medical issues or to restore their bodies after accidents or illnesses. We also see extreme forms of body modification, such as tongue splitting, scarification, and implanting objects under the skin. These practices, while less common, are testament to the lengths some individuals will go to in order to achieve their desired appearance. In the end, whether it's a simple ear piercing, a full-body tattoo, or a major surgical procedure, these modern practices of body deformation are ultimately about control. They reflect a desire to take ownership of one's body, to shape and mold it according to one's personal vision, regardless of societal norms or expectations. Today, the motivations behind these practices are as varied as the practices themselves. However, just like in the past, these modern practices come with their own set of ethical and health considerations. Let's delve deeper into the ethics and health risks associated with modern body deformations. As the methods evolve, so too do the ethical debates surrounding them. What was once a cultural practice or a sign of status has now become a deeply personal choice, often influenced by societal beauty standards. Today, procedures like plastic surgery, tattoos, body piercings, and other forms of body modifications are more accessible than ever before. Yet the question remains, just because we can, does it mean we should? There's no denying the potential health risks associated with these practices. Infections, complications from anesthesia, blood clots, scarring, these are just a few of the hazards one might face. And not to mention the psychological impact, as body dissatisfaction and mental health issues can sometimes be exacerbated by such procedures. And then there's the ethical side of things. Is it right to drastically alter our bodies to fit a certain mold? This is where the concept of body autonomy comes into play. It's about having full control over our bodies and making informed decisions about what we choose to do with them. However, it's crucial to remember that informed decisions require transparency and honesty from the medical community. It means understanding the potential risks and complications, having realistic expectations, and being aware of the potential for regret. In the end, the ethics of modern body deformation is a multifaceted issue. It's a balance between individual rights, societal pressures, and the potential health implications. It's a topic that warrants further discussion as it's intertwined with our understanding of beauty, identity, and self-expression. The desire for physical transformation, it seems, is still very much a part of the human condition. From ancient civilizations to modern society, the practice of body deformation remains a constant, albeit evolving facet of human culture. We've journeyed through the annals of history, discovering how diverse cultures have altered their bodies in pursuit of beauty, status, or identity. Whether it's the foot binding of ancient China, the head-shaping practices of the Mayans, or the modern obsession with plastic surgery, these traditions, steeped in social, cultural, and aesthetic values, have shaped our understanding of beauty and self-expression. We've also delved into the potential risks and limitations these practices impose on the human body, prompting us to question the lengths we go to fit societal norms. As we navigate our contemporary world, where body modifications abound, we're challenged to critically examine the ethical and health considerations of these practices. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of human body deformities. We hope it has offered you a new perspective on this intriguing aspect of human history and culture.